Thank you so very much for being back. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning, our Christmas edition for today. And let's head straight to our main conversation for today. Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, Taiwo Oyedele, has insisted that President Bola Tinubu lacks the constitutional power to suspend the implementation of the newly passed tax laws already gazetted. Speaking in an interview, Oyedele argued that calls for suspension are misguided, stressing that neither the president nor the executive arm can halt laws that have taken effect. He noted that 2 of the 4 tax laws commenced immediately, repealing the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) Act and replacing it with the Nigeria Revenue Service (NIRS). According to him, suspending the laws would create chaos, including questions over the legality of revenue already collected and the continued existence of the Revenue Authority. However, several senior lawyers, including Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Sans, strongly disagreed. They argued that enforcing the laws from January 1, 2026, despite alleged post-passage alterations, would violate the rule of law. The lawyers maintained that if the gazetted versions differ from what the National Assembly passed, the law becomes unconstitutional, void, and unforeseeable. Sounds like Mohammed Abeni and J.K. Gadzama described Oyedele's stance as reckless, warning that discrepancies between past and gazetted versions create a serious constitutional crisis. They urged immediate suspension of enforcement, possible legislative correction, or judicial intervention to restore legal certainty and public confidence. Let's get talking. I still have with me Barrister Vance Ufeli. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being here. And I'm more excited that this is your area of forte. Help us make sense of some of these things. Oyedele saying that the president has no hand any longer. The law has been gazetted. It is now law as it stands. It even has taken effect. Nothing can draw it back again. Help us make sense how this works.
Yeah, Oyedele cannot be saying that. He's not a lawyer. I don't know who gave him the authority to make such a public expression. The tax law that he helped to put together is very academic. I mean, he doesn't have any experience. He has not lived in any country where this tax law that they put together had worked. So he should restrain himself to the academic letters of that tax law. We're saying that it is law that will govern taxation. It is what is legal that can be taxed. Okay, that the National Assembly passed a law, okay, the tax law, the 4 of them, handed over the said, according to law, to the president who gave his assent to it, okay? Even though it was an executive bill, the bill actually emanated from the executive, the president. It's sent to the National Assembly for the National Assembly's concurrence. The National Assembly did all the debate and the fine-tuning and the, input and reduce same into what it should be. The president assent to it. Having assented to it, we found out that the gazetted copy that is now available, okay, for enforcement, is different from the one that was passed by the National Assembly. And so the normal thing to do is to suspend the law pending when the ratification of the problems. And it's saying that the president cannot suspend the law. What does it mean by that? As long as what the president have with him is not that, as long as what they intend to implement is not that was passed by the National Assembly, then you will have chaos. There's chaos. So it's not a question of whether the president can suspend it or not. It's a question of the illegality of the copy that is before the public for implementation. And because you have a wrong copy for implementation, a copy that have, that was altered, that you have other sections added to it, creating and empowering the FIRS to take certain actions and without court order. All those ones put together is an illegality. So we should be talking about the arrest and prosecution of whoever is involved in that oversight, that lapse. That's what we're talking about. We should not be talking about the implementation. The man is rushing to implement. He just wants to implement. But that's why the senior advocate of Nigeria say he's reckless. And I agree, it's a very reckless statement that he made there. You're asking us to carry on. Who will carry what on the basis of what? The nation we cannot all, swim in illegality. He might be an accountant, that's his speed, but when it comes to law must be followed. The law that was passed by the National Assembly must be the same law that will be executed, must be the same law that will be in circulation for enforcement. So it can, the best bet here is for the president to suspend it. I said that this thing should be suspended ever before now, before even this whole thing came up. It has to be suspended because we are going back to the National Assembly to make the corrections. For the National Assembly to produce the copy that it passed, it is that copy the president must assent to, and it is that copy that must be in circulation. That's exactly what should be done. So this carelessness of saying the president cannot, a lawyer even said that the president cannot suspend the law that he assented to. I agree with him. But the question is, the law that the president assented to is not the one in circulation. They are right. The president cannot suspend the law that he assented to. He cannot. But that one that he assented to is the one that must be in circulation. They cannot assent to a law and they keep it in abeyance and go and bring a copy from somewhere and put it in circulation.
I think we have a loss of communication there from Barrister Vance Ofeli's end. I would love to believe that he would join back, possibly when the communication resumes back. But of course, he was speaking to the fact that Oyedele is an accountant. It's not a lawman. He doesn't understand nothing about law, and equally, he believes that what the senior advocates of Nigeria had said, especially some of them, that what he said was reckless. Barrister Vance Ofeli is saying that he believes that is true, because what Oyedele is trying to do is go on to implementing the law, which he said was an illegality. Lots of people have called it constitutional breach. Other people have called it it's treasonable. I'd love to believe that Barrister is back. Are you back, Barrister? All right, so just before we get him to reconnect back, so we were speaking to the issue of the tax law and hope that, something good will be done about it. And whilst we brainstorm on some of these things, I think it's very important to equally say here that Oyedele had disputed some of the claims by the parliamentarians that the law was changed. He said, according to an interview he granted, that nothing was actually changed at this point. So the big question is, whom should we believe? Should we believe Oyedele for saying that nothing was changed, or are parliamentarians representing us that have said that what they had the opportunity of going through is different from what is in the public domain, that hopefully from January 1st, 2026 would be implemented, is different, and therefore Nigerians should not abide with that. There is a general furore of Nigerians in aghast, saying that they are not sympathetical with what the Oyedele is speaking to at this point. So we do not know how we can come to the same to hope that this works. But of course, we still have a Barrister Vance Ofeli who would be joining us. Hopefully this would get him to do some more discussions on this and more, because it's very important that we and make sense of some of these things. So I'll be right back in a bit. It's still Enterprise Morning, a Christmas edition. Please don't go anywhere.
Of voting. Just go there, give them your name.
The highly anticipated book titled Citizen Jones Selected Prologues is finally here.
This exclusive new book takes you on a journey through the finest writing of the ace journalist and broadcaster that will leave you inspired and informed.
The Citizen Jones Selected Prologues of Volume 1. All right, thank you so very much for being back. And just before we went for that little break, we were speaking to the issue of the tax law, and if possible, that would take effect from January 1st, 2026. There is a general furore of that particular tax law, and if Nigerians are really going for it. I still have a Barrister Vance Oferi. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being back.
Very well.
All right. So you were speaking to something before we went for that.
Yes, I'm saying that the law that the president has sent to must be the one that will be executed. It cannot be something else. So the lawyer who said the president cannot suspend the law that he has sent it to is right. But the question is it the law that was assented to that's in circulation now for enforcement? It's not. So there must, at the end of the day, we must keep at abeyance this current uttered one. Okay? We have to keep it at abeyance.
All right. So I would love to read out something Mr. Oyedele had said here. He was given an opportunity to speak on this particular matter. He said, I'd love to read it out here. Oyedele dismissed claims that Nigeria's new tax laws were altered after passage by the National Assembly, describing the controversy as misinformation designed to create fear and stall implementation of reforms scheduled for the beginning of January. And still on, he said that the allegation that provisions in the gazetted tax law differ from what lawmakers passed cannot be authoritatively established because the certified harmonized versions transmitted by the National Assembly to the President have not been made public. So the big question is, where then did the parliamentarian get the copy that is being sold all over the place if what they had talked about is not being made public?
Why would you say so? It's Parliament that passed it now. Parliament have a copy of what they passed. Yes, and it's been said that one that they have, which they passed, is different from the one gazetted. They cannot be saying where did they get it from. This is Nigeria. How can we say where they get it from? Document, we've seen where memos leak, even in the presidency. It does not lie in the mouth of Oyedele to be saying that there is misinformation and all that. There's already an allegation. What he's doing now is trying to act as a judge. The matter has to go to court for a court to make the pronouncement to say, no, that these two documents are the same. Or no, there's a material difference between these two documents. There's already a dispute. And when there's a dispute, it's not Oyedele that will resolve the dispute. There's a dispute already. It's only a court of law that can make that expression that is making, that this is just people trying to stall reforms. It's a court that will make that pronouncement, not him. There's a dispute already, and when there's a dispute, you cannot go ahead with that. There's nothing that is tied hard and stone that we must implement this law from January. Why are we rushing to exactly? And for him to say that you cannot set aside the 4 laws, nobody's asking you to set aside the 4 laws. Under the law, there's what they call the blue pencil rule. If a law is bad, if a part of a law is bad, that part can be struck out by a court pronouncement. We're not saying the entire laws are bad. We're not saying that changing the name from FRS to NIRS is wrong or whatsoever. All those aspects, we're not saying. What they're talking about, the aspects in the one in circulation that the gazetted one that empowers the NRS and that makes some material alterations. You understand? We don't need to see it as long as the allegation is there. Let it be resolved by a court of law. That's it. You can't implement when that allegation is still hanging.
Yes, sorry for interjecting the barrister, but what he's saying here is, according to him, and I love to quote him, there was a reference to a provision that I know was not in the final gazette, but was in the draft. When I reached out, that is Oyedele now, when I reached out, I was told the committee had not even met. Some people decided to write a report before the committee met, and it circulated everywhere. So what he is eventually saying that what we have is a fake copy, that the original one is still with the president yet, which has not been communicated to Nigerians.
It's the same thing we're saying. There's a dispute. There's a dispute. Do you think between now and 2026, somebody will not go to court to ask that the federal government be restrained from implementing it? There's a dispute. As long as there's a dispute. Now, he's even introducing a third version to it. Say somebody wrote a report. Who is that person that wrote the report and circulated it? Who is that person that wrote a report and circulated it? That's the dispute we're talking about. There's a dispute. There's an allegation. You can't go ahead with implementation when this allegation has not been resolved. You cannot go. I know it's part of those who put together the document. It should not rush to go and implement it because tax is a very sensitive issue. They must go back to the drawing board to correct every mistake that we made. That person that wrote the report, why did they write the report? The one in circulation, why is it different from the one that the National Assembly signed? And why is it saying that the one that the president signed have not been communicated to anyone? So all these things are the things we are talking about. He cannot resolve it. He doesn't have the authority under the law to resolve disputes of this magnitude. It's a national issue. It has to be brought before a court of law for resolution.
All right, so I'd love to ask you, this is my final question. With your expansive knowledge and experience doing what you do as a lawyer, can you give us maybe one example in the past where laws were passed and it was made unconstitutional, or it was retracted back and either it didn't pass through or it was amended?
There are a lot of cases, you know. Let's take the Electoral Act, for example. You know, when the Electoral Act, the Electoral Act of not the amended version now, I think 2020. No, 2020 is the amended version. It was first passed before 2020. I think 2019 or thereabouts. When it was presented to Buhari at that time, you know, it was presented 4 times. The first one, when the president looked at it and the team went through it, the legal team in the presidency looked at it, they discovered that the alteration made will affect certain time lags. Okay? That if the president go ahead to assent to it, it means that political parties will not have up to 90 days within which to present their nominees, and some other ancillary provisions that will conflict. He vetoed it. He took it back to the National Assembly. The National Assembly worked on it, corrected that, and they brought it again. Another issue. Okay? He vetoed it. It went back to the National Assembly. That's why I did it 4 times before we came up with that law, the Electoral Act, the new Electoral Act. Before, and after a few years, it was also amended again. You know, okay. After a few years, that's when they now amended the part that has to do with if you are not a contestant in an election, you cannot go to court. Before now, anybody could go to court. You understand? So that is the example. The latest wherein a law was passed, was presented, was vetoed 4 times before it went through. Okay? So that's the closest example. This particular one was not vetoed. The president did not veto it because this one is even an executive, started as an executive bill, which means it came from the executive itself. Then it got to the National Assembly for their own legislative input. After the, it was during the legislative input that the Northerners came up with their own arguments. Everybody came up with their own arguments and adjustments and all that. Then when they passed it, the copy that was passed went to the president, and the president assent to it. And now there's a dispute as to what has been gazetted and what the National Assembly passed. Okay? So that dispute must be resolved. And it cannot be resolved by an individual. It has to be resolved by an institution. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I am not sure, I'm not very sure how the president and his team hopes to make this work. Already they have based the 58.5 trillion Naira budget of 2026. Hopefully most of the money would come from the tax from Nigerians, or taxing Nigerians. Last year, the FIRS made 21 trillion Naira from taxing Nigerians. That's about 14 billion US dollars. That was what was made in 2024. With the new tax law amendments and all, they hope to have more than 40 trillion Naira made or accrued from taxing Nigerians. Now that there is a little bit of fracas here and there, I do not know if they have a plan B at this point. But Barrister, in 30 seconds, do you think that there could be a plan B for the executive at this point with the little chaos that is here?
With tax. Nobody said they should not go on with tax. We have an existing law before this amendment. So they can go on with the previous position, pending when this is ratified. And when it's ratified, they will give a date for commencement. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's just cross-referencing and cross-check. And when they cross-reference, cross-check, they may not even need to go to court. Or they may just go back to the National Assembly and do cross-referencing and cross-check. And, do a press conference for the world to see. And that's all. So you can't just go ahead in the face of disputes. Nobody does that. So nobody's saying they should not tax Nigerians or not make money for the nation. But it has to be done the right way. We cannot have a law passed, another one in circulation. It says a lot about legal sovereignty. Okay? I mean, it says a lot about legal sovereignty and the rest of that. So we shouldn't have a porous legal system wherein the federal government will be acting on forged laws. It doesn't show any sign of seriousness. Let's address this issue properly.
All right, let's address this issue properly. And I equally love to believe that the respect for democratic idealism, would go a long way in helping the executive, as led by President Bola Tinubu, to understand the need to allow this process go through the normal areas, filters it should pass through just before Nigerians will see reasons to accept it and equally abide with it. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for your time. We truly do appreciate your greatness there. So, and that's about the time we have. We'd love to say thank you, everyone, for making this a date. Please do well to follow us. You can read up on everything we have talked about when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally rewatch this, download and share to your friends and your folks, if you may, when you visit us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike, wishing you a splendid Christmas and equally urging you, please drink, but do not drink and drive. Stay safe. We have 2026 to meet again and do this. So please, we need you alive. That's our suggestions and that's our prayers for today. Have yourself a splendid Christmas. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. And I'll see you on another episode. Bye-bye.